Welcome to the Sky Commander Flight Brief. It's your mission-ready podcast for drone pilot training and aerial insights across Canada.
From Transport Canada rules to real-world drone ops, we break it down, take you higher, and help you earn your wings. Because here at skycommander.ca, we don't just fly.
It hints there's more to it. It's a masterclass, a deeper level, maybe a philosophy or a community focus, perhaps.
It's definitely intriguing, sets them apart from just, a basic tips show. Skycommander.ca is the obvious next step. Precisely. If you're thinking about flying a drone in Canada, boom, this content is aimed right at you.
Powered by skycommander.ca.
The elite podcast for Canada's drone pilot. Okay, let's get started. Today, we are leaving the comfortable air conditioning of the office behind. I want you to mentally transport yourself to the edge of a field. It's mid-July. The sun is high, the wind is whipping across the prairies, and, the humidity is sticking your shirt to your back. You are standing next to a client.
And not just any client, a farmer. Someone whose entire livelihood, their mortgage, their kids' college fund, it all depends on what is happening in that dirt right in front of you.
Exactly. And this farmer, he turns to you, points at your drone case, and asks a question that feels so simple, but is actually incredibly heavy. He says, "Can that thing tell me what's wrong with my crop?"
That right there.
Yeah.
That is what we call the canola edge moment. It's called that because it often happens on the edge of a canola field where the crop is dense and it's really hard to walk through.
Sure.
But it applies to corn, soy, wheat, anything. And frankly, it's the most dangerous moment in the entire industry for a service provider.
Dangerous because it's a trap? Is that what you mean?
It's a trap because it tests your integrity against your desire to make a sale. Standing on that edge, you have two voices in your head.
Okay.
The first voice is the wizard.
The wizard.
The wizard wants to say, yes, absolutely. This drone is magic. It sees fungus. It counts bushels. It solves every single problem you have. And that answer, it feels good. It feels powerful.
It sells the gig.
It sells the gig instantly because you're promising a miracle.
But it sets you up for a massive fall.
A catastrophic fall.
Yeah.
Because when you go back, you process that data and it doesn't show fungus. It just shows, generic stress.
Yeah.
Or when the yield numbers don't match the harvest, you look like a liar.
Right. You lose all trust.
You're done. The second voice, though, is the pro. The pro answers with clarity, not magic. And navigating that conversation, moving from the wizard to the pro, that is what we are breaking down today.
We've got a stack of research here, field guides, regulatory updates that we're going to comb through. And our mission for this deep dive is to take you, the listener, from being like a hobbyist who takes pretty pictures of sunsets over a field to a provider of legitimate field intelligence.
And I want to emphasize, even if you don't own a farm or a drone for that matter, this is a masterclass in data literacy. It really is. It's about the difference between looking at something and actually measuring it.
That's a great point.
It's about managing expectations in a really high-stakes environment where, at the end of the day, nature is the boss.
We're going to cover why shadows are your worst enemy, why having more pixels isn't always the answer, and why, and this is surprising, a simple PDF is often worth 10 times more than a complex 3D model.
We're really going to bridge that gap between cool tech and business asset.
So let's start with that fundamental identity crisis. The research we have here draws a hard line between two roles, field eyes and crop doctor. This seems to be where most people get into trouble right away.
It is. It absolutely is. And it's a boundary you have to respect if you want to stay employed and, honestly, out of court.
Wow, that's serious.
Absolutely. Look, the drone pilot is the field eyes. That is layer one. Your job is sensing. You are there to provide evidence. You are the radiologist taking the x-ray. You show where the field is different.
You highlight the pattern.
You highlight the patterns. You say, there is a red spot here and a green spot there.
You don't say, you have a broken rib.
Exactly. You never say that. You provide the image that allows for the diagnosis. The crop doctor, that's layer two, that's the agronomist or the farmer.
They're the surgeon.
They are the surgeon. They have the degree in plant pathology. They have 30 years of experience with that specific soil type. They take your x-ray, your map, and they decide if that red spot is nitrogen deficiency, root rot, or, just a gopher hole.
So the value proposition isn't, I know more than you about your own field.
No, never.
It's, I can help you see your field faster and more completely.
We call them scouting accelerators. That's the term. Think about the math of a 160-acre quarter section. It's huge.
Yeah.
Walking that entire field effectively it's impossible.
You'd be out there all day.
You would. And you're just hoping to stumble upon a problem. With the drone, the agronomist looks at the map, sees the stress zone, drives the truck straight to it, and makes a diagnosis in 10 minutes.
So you're not replacing the boots on the ground. You're guiding them.
Precisely. The drone creates a roadmap for the boots.
I love that framework. Okay, so let's get into the actual gear then. Section 1 of our notes is the toolkit. And I think there's a massive misconception here that you need to drop like 50 grand on a sensor to do this work.
That is the biggest barrier to entry, mentally. It really is. People think if they don't have a multispectral sensor that costs as much as a Honda Civic, they can't help a farmer. But the reality is for, I'd say, 80% of the problems a farmer actually cares about, you don't need the sci-fi stuff.
Okay, so let's talk about the basic tool first, RGB.
RGB, red, green, blue.
And the notes have a pretty good mnemonic for this one. Real good beauty.
Real good beauty. I like that because it reminds you what it is. It's a standard camera. It's probably the same kind of sensor that's in your phone, just, better quality. It captures the world exactly as your human eye sees it, just from a vantage point you can't reach.
So why is this the sweet spot for a new operator? I would have assumed the invisible light sensors were where the money is.
RGB is defensible.
What do you mean by that? Defensible?
If I show a farmer a multispectral heat map with a color scale, he has to trust my algorithm. He has to trust that I've set it up correctly, that red equals bad. It's abstract.
Right, it's an interpretation.
It is. But if I show him a high-resolution RGB photo of a giant bare patch in his corn, he trusts his eyes. He sees the dirt. There is zero friction in that communication. It's undeniable.
Okay, so what are we actually looking for with a standard camera? What are the use cases?
Early season is the gold mine here. Think stand counts and emergence.
This is right when the crop is just waking up, popping out of the ground.
Right. The planter has just gone through. The corn or canola is just starting to pop up. You fly low and slow with an RGB camera. You can literally count the plants from the image. More importantly, you're looking for skips.
Skips?
A skip is where the planter failed to drop a seed. Maybe the vacuum pressure on the machine was wrong or a tube was clogged. A skip is expensive. It's land that you are paying taxes on, you're fertilizing, you're watering, but it's growing nothing.
It's a blank spot on the balance sheet.
Exactly. If you can fly that field and show a farmer, hey, look, row 12 is skipping every 50 feet, they can stop the tractor and fix the machine right then and there.
That's immediate ROI, like right away. What else?
Buck damage documentation. This is the grim stuff, but it's valuable. Hailstorms, wind events, what we call lodging, where the crop gets blown flat or flooding.
Okay.
RGB is perfect for this because insurance adjusters need to see the physical damage. They don't want a graph, they want a picture of the broken stalks. You're creating an evidence package for them.
And equipment forensics, that sounds like CSI. Cornfield.
It basically is. I mean, you can see things from the air that are totally invisible from the road. The classic one is the mystery stripe. You fly up and you see perfect straight line of weeds or yellowing crop running through the field.
And nature doesn't make straight lines.
Exactly. That's not a soil problem. That's a clogged nozzle on a sprayer or a skipped pass with the fertilizer. RGB catches that instantly because the color difference is visible to the naked eye. It answers the simple question, what does it look like?
Okay, so that's our binoculars, our flying binoculars. Now let's put on the predator vision, the multispectral sensors.
Now we're getting into the invisible. Now we're talking about things our eyes can't process. Multispectral cameras capture wavelengths the human eye filters out, specifically near infrared NIR and the red edge.
This is where we get into that alphabet soup of acronyms, NDVI, NDRE. We need to demystify these because people just throw them around like buzzwords without really knowing what they mean.
Let's strip it all down. NDVI, Normalized Difference Vegetation Index.
And the mnemonic for that one.
NIR does vegetation insight.
NIR does vegetation insight.
Okay. How does it work? Like, what is it actually measuring?
Imagine a plant leaf. It's a tiny solar panel, right? It wants to absorb visible light, especially red and blue, to make energy through photosynthesis.
Sure.
But it hates near-infrared light. NIR carries a lot of heat. If a plant absorbs too much NIR, it literally cooks from the inside out. So a healthy plant has evolved to reflect NIR like a mirror. It just bounces it away.
So a healthy, happy plant is a near-infrared mirror.
Bingo. But a stressed plant, one that's thirsty or sick or being eaten by mugs, its internal cell structure starts to collapse. It gets mushy.
Wow.
And it stops reflecting that NIR so well, it starts absorbing it.
So the sensor sees that drop in reflection long before our eyes can see the leaf turning yellow.
Exactly. NDVI is just a math formula. It's an index that compares the visible red light, which the plant should be absorbing, to the near-infrared light, which it should be reflecting. And the ratio between those two gives you a health score.
Okay, so it's like a vital sign for the plant?
It's a smoke alarm.
I like that analogy, a smoke alarm. Think about a smoke alarm in your house. It starts beeping. It tells you there is a fire. But does it tell you what is burning?
No. Could be my toast, could be the curtains.
Exactly. NDVI tells you this plant is stressed. It lights up red on the map. But it doesn't tell you if the cause is fungus, drought, compaction, or a deer that's been sleeping in that spot for a week.
And this brings us right back to the wizard versus pro thing. The wizard sees the red spot and says, "My drone says you have blight."
And the pro says, "My drone detects a stress pattern in this location. We need to go see what's causing it." It's a huge difference in language and liability.
Okay, now what about NDRE? Why do we need another index if NDVI works so well?
Because NDVI has a weakness. It gets saturated. Imagine you're listening to your favorite song, but you turn the volume on the stereo up to 100. It just becomes distorted noise.
Yeah, you lose all the detail.
You lose the detail. When a crop like corn gets really big and dense in mid-July, there is so much green biomass that NDVI just maxes out. The signal hits the ceiling, it reads 0.99 everywhere. It can't tell the difference between a very healthy plant and a super healthy plant anymore.
It's blinded by the green.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's blinded. So we switched to NDRE.
NIR detects real edge.
Right. It uses the red edge part of the light spectrum, which is this narrow band that lies right between visible red and invisible NIR. It penetrates deeper into the plant canopy. It's like turning the volume down slightly so you can hear the individual instruments again.
So to summarize, early season when there's lots of dirt showing between the plants.
NBVI is king. It's great at separating plant from soil.
Late season when you're looking at a jungle of corn.
Switch to NDRE to see the subtle variations within that dense canopy.
But fundamentally, both of them are answering the question, what is the plant doing? Versus RGB, which answers, what does it look like?
That is the core distinction. You start with RGD to see structure and physical problems. You use multispectral to see biological function and stress.
Okay, so we have our sensors, we know what they do, now we have to actually fly the mission. And reading through section 2 of the notes here, this seems way, way harder than just flying a DJI Mini over a park.
It's a different sport entirely.
Yeah.
You are dealing with what we call a living asset.
It's alive.
It's alive, it moves, and it reacts to light.
Yeah.
The biggest boss fight in agricultural mapping is the sun angle.
Explain this. I mean, I would assume light is light. Why does the angle of the sun matter so much?
In a parking lot, a shadow is just a dark spot on the pavement. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
But in a crop field, shadows are data corruption. They're poison.
Wow.
Imagine a row of corn. That's a three-dimensional object. If the sun is low in the sky, say 9:00 a.m. or 4:00 p.m., every single corn stalk casts a long shadow on the corn stalk next to it.
And to a multispectral sensor, a shadow equals dark, and dark equals low reflectance.
Which the algorithm interprets as dead plant. If you fly late in the afternoon, your map will look like the whole field is dying. It'll be a sea of red. But it's not. It's just shadowy.
So you're mapping the time of day, not the health of the crop.
You've nailed it. You have a very specific window, usually between 10 a.m. and 2:00 p.m., where the sun is high enough in the sky to minimize those shadows between the rows. You serve the sun angle boss. You don't get to choose when you fly. The sun does.
What about clouds? I feel like a cloudy day would be good. Nice, soft, diffuse light.
A fully overcast day. That's the holy grail. Uniform light is fantastic.
Okay.
A fully clear blue sky day. Also great. The enemy, the absolute map killer, is broken clouds. Those puffy, white, drifting cumulus clouds.
Because the light just keeps changing every few seconds.
It's a nightmare for the processing software.
Yeah.
Mapping works by stitching hundreds, sometimes thousands of photos together. Imagine photo number 1 is taken in bright, direct sunlight. Then photo number 2, taken 3 seconds later, has a massive cloud shadow passing over it. The software tries to match the features between them, and it just fails. The brightness is completely different.
Or worse, it stitches them, but it leaves a giant dark blob on the map that looks like a problem area.
And that's exactly what happens. You hand that map to the farmer.
Yeah.
He drives out to the dark blob, thinking it's a disease outbreak or a flood, and he finds nothing. Just perfectly healthy corn.
And there goes your credibility.
Instantly gone. Broken clouds are the map killer. If the clouds are moving fast, keep the drone in the box. Or, go fly for simple pictures, but do not try to sell a health analysis based on that flight.
Okay, so let's talk flight strategy. The notes here mention a 2 altitude tiers strategy. Why not just fly everything at, say, 200 feet?
Efficiency. Just pure, simple efficiency. If you're a professional managing, say, 5,000 acres for a client, you can't map every single inch at microscopic detail. You'd need 1,000 batteries and a week of flight time.
So Tier 1 is the overview, the big picture.
Tier 1 is high and fast. You're flying at the regulatory ceiling, usually 400 feet AGL. You're looking for whole field patterns. Drainage issues, major soil variation, big zones of stress. You're scanning. You're trying to find the anomalies.
And then Tier 2 is for investigating those anomalies.
Tier 2 is low and tight. That's surgical. You saw a weird spot on the Tier 1 map? Now you fly a targeted Tier 2 mission at, say, 80 feet, just over that spot, to see the individual leaves, or use it for those stand counts we talked about earlier.
So detect with Tier 1, inspect with Tier 2.
Exactly. Don't waste your time or your data storage on the 95% of the field that is perfectly fine.
Now, here's a concept that really stuck out to me from the research, the edge of failure. Why do maps always look so wavy and garbage at the edges of the field?
It's a pure geometry problem. Photogrammetry, the science of making maps from photos, needs context. It needs overlap. In the middle of the field, a photo is surrounded by other photos on all 4 sides. The software knows exactly where it fits in the puzzle.
But at the edge?
At the edge, it falls off a cliff. There's no data on one side, so the map gets wavy. The software doesn't have enough information to lock it down, so it warps. It looks like a Dali painting.
The problem is, as you said, farmers care a lot about the edges.
That's the irony. The headlands. The edges where the tractor turns around, that's where the most soil compaction happens. It's where the weeds creep in from the neighbor's side. So the farmer looks at the map. What does he do? He checks the edge first, because that's where the problems usually are.
And he sees a blurry mess.
A blurry mess, and he assumes the whole map is trash. He loses confidence in the entire data set because the first place he looked was bad.
So how do we fix the geometry? How do we avoid that?
Buffer zones. It's simple. You have to fly past the field boundary. You want the drone to be turning around over the road or the neighbor's field, safely, of course. You need to capture the field edge as if it were the center of the photo with data all around it.
And what's this edge ring concept?
That's the pro move. After you fly your normal lawnmower pattern back and forth, you fly one continuous loop around the entire perimeter of the field. It's like putting a frame on a picture. It locks all the geometry in place and gives you a beautiful, crisp edge.
It sounds like such a small thing, but it separates the amateurs from the pros.
It adds maybe 3 minutes to the flight, and it saves you hours of explaining why your map looks weird. It's a no-brainer.
One last physics check before we move on. Overlap and speed. We talked about how the crop moves in the wind.
Motion blur is the enemy of stitching. It's that simple. If you're flying at 30 miles per hour and the wind is blowing the corn around, the camera sees a blur. Blurry pixels don't have distinct features, so the software can't match them between photos.
So the mantra is?
Slow down. And high overlap. We recommend 80 to 85% front overlap and 75 to 80% side overlap.
That seems really excessive. I mean, you're basically taking the same photo 5 or 6 times.
You are, and you need to. You want every single corn stalk to appear in 10 or 12 different images from slightly different angles. That gives the software enough data to triangulate exactly where that plant is, despite the fact that it's moving in the breeze.
And the mnemonics here are important too, GSD.
GSD is ground spot detail. It's your resolution, how crisp the image is on the ground.
And AGL.
Above ground, literally.
Yeah.
Always know your height relative to the dirt you're mapping, not the point where you launched from, especially in hilly terrain.
Okay, let's shift gears to section 3, the hike traps. This industry is just full of marketing fluff, and we need to cut through it. Trap number 1, yield prediction.
Yes. The siren song. Every software company out there wants to claim, scan your field in July and we will tell you to the bushel what you're going to harvest in October.
Why is that a lie? I mean, it seems logical. If I can measure the biomass, shouldn't I be able to predict the yield?
Because a map is a snapshot in time. Yield is a movie that unfolds over months. You can have the most beautiful high NDVI crop in July. It has huge potential. But then 1,000 variables happen after you land the drone.
Weather variables mainly.
Exactly. Pollination happens. If you get a week of extreme heat during pollination, the corn doesn't set kernels. The plant is still green and looks healthy on a map, but the cob inside is empty.
Wow.
Or a hailstorm hits in August. Or a deer herd moves in for a buffet. Or a new disease strikes late in the season. Your July map didn't predict any of that.
So if you told the farmer you're getting 200 bushels an acre and they end up getting 150.
You were the one they blame. They might have even sold grain on the futures market based on your faulty prediction. That is a serious, serious liability.
So the professional pivot here is to sell variability maps, not yield maps.
Right. The language is critical. You say, I can't give you a bushel number, but I can tell you that the north zone of this field has 30% less biomass than the south zone. So you should expect significantly less yield there. That helps them manage their harvest logistics, their storage, but it doesn't promise a check at the bank.
Trap number 2 is the diagnosis delusion. We touched on this. The farmer asks, is it fungus?
And I see new pilots do this constantly. They want to be helpful. They're trying to add value. They Google corn diseases. They see a picture that looks sort of like their map. And they tell the farmer, yeah, it looks like you have northern corn leaf blight.
So dangerous.
So dangerous. If a farmer goes and sprays a $30,000 fungicide treatment based on your guess, and it turns out it was just drought stress, well, you might be liable for that bill. Or worse, you've poisoned the relationship forever.
So we use the confidence ladder. I love this script from the notes. Can you walk us through it?
It's a script that keeps you safe and credible. Run number 1, state the observed fact. I see a low vigor zone in the northeast corner of the map. That is indisputable. The sensor saw it.
That's safe ground. You're just reporting data.
Rung number 2, describe the pattern. The shape is geometric. It's a straight line and it matches the width of your sprayer. You were describing the shape, not the biology.
Still safe.
And run number 3, recommend the next action. Let's go ground truth these 3 GPS pins I've dropped in that zone.
Notice what you never said. You never said, your sprayer is broken and you messed up.
Never. You said, the pattern suggests a sprayer issue. You are guiding the investigation, not closing the case. You have to remember the key phrase. The drone tells us where to look, not what to conclude.
Beautiful. Okay, trap number 3, inconsistent monitoring.
This is for the pilots who are selling season-long monitoring packages. You know, I'll fly your field every single week.
Sounds pretty lucrative.
It is, if you do it right. But to do it right, you have to pass what we call the CAL check. Consistent time of day. Always calibrate your sensors. Lock your camera settings.
Why does this matter so much? Consistency.
Because farmers, especially when you're monitoring, care about change. Is the crop getting better or is it getting worse? If you fly at noon on Monday, then you fly again at 4 p.m. on Thursday.
The sun angle changes, the shadows change.
And the map looks completely different. You might tell the farmer, oh no, the health of your crop is dropping.
Yeah.
But really, the sun just went down. You introduced a variable that has nothing to do with the plant's health.
So you're creating false trends.
You're creating noise. If you are monitoring over time, you have to be a robot. Same time, same flight path, same camera settings. Every single time.
The consistency is the product.
The map is just the output. Consistency is what they are paying you for.
All right, let's move to section 4, the regulatory landscape. This is the dry stuff that keeps you out of jail.
It's the foundation of professionalism.
Yeah.
It's not sexy, but if you don't know this, you aren't a pilot. You're just a liability waiting to happen.
And there is a pervasive myth in agriculture, the private land myth.
Oh, yeah. It's my farm, it's my dirt, I can do what I want.
Get off my lawn, FAA.
The problem is you don't own the air above your lawn. The FAA in the U.S. or Transport Canada, they regulate the national airspace. The rules apply the second your drone's wheels leave the ground, regardless of who owns the dirt underneath.
Let's look at Canada first. There are some really big changes coming in November 2025 regarding CARS Part 9.
Huge updates. Transport Canada is really leaning into this technology. They're expanding privileges for what they call advanced operations. The big headline is EVLS.
Extended visual line of sight.
Right. The standard rule is VLS, visual line of sight. You, the pilot, have to be able to see the drone with your own unaided eyes. In massive prairie field, that limits you. You can only fly maybe half a mile out before the drone just becomes a speck.
So what does EVLS allow?
It means I can manage the safety picture beyond my own eyeballs. You use visual observers, VOs, stationed at the other end of the field with radios. As long as someone in your trained crew can see the drone, you can keep flying.
That unlocks massive acreage. You can do a whole section in one flight.
It does. It's a game changer. And they're also opening pathways for medium drones in built-up areas and, more importantly for ag, low-risk BVLOS beyond visual line of sight in isolated areas.
So flying without seeing it at all.
Basically, if you are 20 miles from the nearest airport and flying under 400 feet, the rules are getting flexible enough to let you do real work without needing complex waivers every time.
And the tool to use for Canadian airspace is NAV Drone.
NV Drone is your clearance cockpit. You open the app, it tells you if you're in a restricted zone, and you file your flight plan. You have to use it.
Okay, now, the United States, FAA Part 107.
Part 107 is the table stakes. If money changes hands for your flight, or even if you're just doing it to help your own business like your own farm, you need that remote pilot certificate. You are the remote pilot in command.
And for airspace authorization, we use LANC.
LANC, the Low Altitude Authorization and Notification Capability.
The mnemonic for this is let's ATC say yes faster.
That's a good one. In the old days, if you were near an airport, you had to file paperwork by fax and wait 90 days for a maybe. Now you open an app like a Locked or Air Map, you draw your flight area, request authorization, and you can get a text message approval in 30 seconds.
And remote ID, that's a big recent change.
It's not optional anymore. It's a digital license plate for your drone. If your drone isn't broadcasting its location and your pilot location, you are non-compliant with Part 89. The FAA is getting much stricter on enforcement for this.
Now, there is one trap that applies to both regions, Canada and the U.S., and it is a massive one, the spraying trap.
This happens to every single ag pilot eventually. You show the farmer a great map, you point to a patch of thistles. The farmer says, hey, that's great. Can you just dump some Roundup in that drone and go spray that little spot for me?
It seems so logical. You're already there. The drone is there.
Hard stop. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
Why? What's the big deal?
Mapping is looking. Spraying is treating. They're completely different regulatory universes. A spraying drone is carrying hazardous materials. It is legally considered a crop duster.
In the U.S., that's a whole different regulation, Part 137, right?
Part 137. It requires special exemptions, chemical handling training, pilot medical clearances. It's a mountain of paperwork. In Canada, you need specific Special Flight Operations Certificates, or SFOCs, and you have to follow the chemical label to the letter.
And most chemical labels don't say apply with drone on them yet.
Exactly. If the label says ground application only or aerial application by fixed-wing aircraft, and you use a drone, you are breaking federal law. The fines are massive.
So the takeaway is crystal clear. Don't mix looking with treating unless you are fully certified and insured for both, which are separate things.
Stay in your lane. The liability is not worth it.
Okay, let's talk about what the farmer actually receives. Section 5. Deliverables, because I have a strong suspicion they don't want a 4-gigabyte GRTIF file that crashes their laptop.
They absolutely do not. We have a simple rule for this. We call it the truck test.
The truck test. Paint the picture for us.
Picture the client. He's in a Ford F-150. He's parked on a gravel road at the edge of the field. His hands are dirty from checking an engine. He has 1 bar of 3G cell signal. He wants to see the problem now.
And you sent him a link to a massive cloud-hosted 3D model.
And he sits there and watches the loading wheel spin for 5 minutes, gets frustrated, throws his phone on the dash, and drives away. You failed the truck test. You failed, period.
So what passes the truck test? What actually works?
The phone-friendly PDF.
A PDF. That seems so low-tech in this high-tech world.
It's universal. It's small. It opens instantly, even with bad service. The ideal package has 3 parts. First, the PDF summary. Here's the field map. Here are the 3 problem areas I found.
Okay, part 2.
The moneymaker overlay. This is a small map file, like a KML or a shapefile, that can load in Google Earth on his phone, or even better, directly into his tractor's guidance display. But it's not just the picture. It has zones.
Zones.
You draw polygons. Observation zone, severe damage zone, and most importantly, pins.
The pins are just GPS coordinates.
Yes. Simple pins labeled check 1, check 2, check 3. It turns the map from a picture into a to-do list. The farmer can walk out, look at his phone, and see his little blue dot walking toward your red pin. That is actionable intelligence.
And the third item in the package.
A full-res orthomosaic. The giant file. You send that to their office computer later via a Dropbox link or something. That's for the archives, for the permanent record. But the PDF and the pins are for the truck.
What about naming conventions for these files?
Be boringly consistent. Smith Farm North Quarter 2026 Year 2 03 RGB. Don't name it DCIM001.jpg. Farmers love organized data. If they can't find it a year later, they won't use it, and they won't hire you again.
So the whole concept here is scouting acceleration.
The 3D rule. Detect the patterns from the sky. Direct the scouting on the ground so the farmer can decide on the actions with their agronomy knowledge.
The notes also mention event response packs. This sounds like a specific product line.
It's a great way to productize your service. Instead of just selling hours, you sell a solution. The Hail Pack, or the drainage pack.
How does that work in practice?
A big hailstorm rolls through the area, the farmer calls you. You fly the next morning. You don't just give him a map. You give him a detailed report that says you have 42.5 acres of severe damage, 30 acres of moderate damage, and 80 acres are untouched. You calculate the exact areas.
Why is that specific breakdown so valuable to him?
Insurance defensibility. The farmer takes that PDF report, hands it to the insurance adjuster, and says, here is the data. It speeds up the claim. It removes the argument and the guesswork. You aren't selling agronomy there. You are selling documentation and peace of mind.
Okay, let's bring this all together with some real-world examples. Section 6, case files. I want to hear how this plays out in the dirt.
Let's go back to the mystery stripe.
Case 1. The farmer sees some uneven growth from the road. He thinks it's a soil variation, something natural.
You fly the drone, you stitch the RGB map, and you see these perfect alternating stripes. Dark green, light green, dark green across the whole field.
So you pull out the measurement tool in your software.
And you find that the stripes are exactly 60 feet apart. You call the farmer and you ask, how wide is your planter? And he says, it's a 60-foot planter.
Boom. It's a mechanical issue.
It's a machine problem. Maybe the starter fertilizer wasn't slowing on the left wing of the planter. By identifying it as a mechanical pattern, you stop him from wasting money spraying fungicide on a machine problem.
That's a huge value right there. Okay, case 2. Irrigation pivot blues.
Center pivots are those giant sprinklers that go in a big circle. From the road, everything just looks green. The whole circle is green. But you fly it with an NDVI sensor.
And you see rings, like a bullseye.
Concentric circles of lower vigor. It looks like a target. That tells you that a specific set of nozzles along the pivot arm is clogged. They aren't putting out enough water. The corn is stressed, but it hasn't turned yellow yet. The drone caught it while there was still time to go out and fix it.
But the caveat here is you still have to ground truth.
Always, 100%.
Yeah.
Because sometimes wind can swirl around a pivot and create patterns that look like water issues but aren't. You have to go check the nozzles to confirm. But the drone told you which 100 nozzles to check out of the thousands on the machine.
Case 3. Neighbors have horses. This sounds more like a soft skills challenge than a technical one.
It is. This is a big one. You're mapping a field, but fields have boundaries. Yeah. And right on the edge is a neighbor's acreage. Maybe they have kids playing in the yard. Maybe they have horses.
And drones sound like a swarm of angry bees.
And horses hate angry bees.
Yeah.
If you fly low over that paddock and you spook a horse and it runs through a fence and injures itself, you are liable for that vet bill.
So what's the protocol? What's the professional way to handle that?
Privacy discipline. First, you talk to the neighbor if you can, but technically, you set your flight boundaries carefully. You fly higher near the livestock to reduce the noise and the visual disturbance. And then when you process the map, you blur out the neighbor's house and their swimming pool.
You actually blur the house.
Absolutely. You don't need the neighbor's backyard in your farmer's crop map. It's invasive and it's irrelevant. Blurring it out shows that you are a professional who respects privacy. It avoids the whole drone peeping Tom accusation before it even starts.
It's amazing how much of this job is communication and empathy, not just stick skills.
It's 90% soft skills. Expectation setting and communication is everything.
Which brings us to the outro concept in our notes here, the data quality kill switch. This seems really counterintuitive. You're saying we should sometimes withhold data we were paid to collect.
It is the hardest and most important lesson to learn. Let's say you flew a mission. You drove 2 hours to get there. You burned 4 batteries. But the clouds were moving like crazy the whole time. You get back to the computer, you process the map, and it looks like a checkerboard of shadows. It is garbage data.
The temptation is to just send it anyway. I did the work, so pay me.
If you send that map, the farmer will try to use it. He will walk to a dark spot, find nothing wrong, and realize the map lied to him. And in that moment, trust is destroyed. You will never, ever get that trust back.
So the kill switch is?
The kill switch is the professional courage to call the client and say, the conditions today were not stable enough to produce a reliable health map. The data is compromised. I am scrubbing this flight, and I will refly it tomorrow at my own expense.
That hurts the wallet today.
It hurts today, but it builds a career for the next decade. It proves you care about the truth more than you care about the invoice. That is what a pro does. Ag monitoring is a system, not a one-off gig.
So let's connect all this to the bigger picture. We've talked a lot about the pilot, but what about the agronomist? The provocative thought to end on is, how does this technology change their job?
I think this is fascinating. For a century, agronomy was about walking, It was about boots on the ground. But you can only walk so many acres in a day before you burn out. As drones become standard field eyes, the agronomist stops being a data gatherer and becomes a strict data interpreter.
They stop searching for the needle in the haystack.
And they start spending all their time just fixing the problems the drone found. The future isn't about replacing the human expert. It's about giving that human supervision. It allows one brilliant agronomist to manage 10,000 acres with the same attention to detail they used to give to 100.
That's the scale we need.
That is the scale we need to feed the world.
That is a really powerful place to end. Whether you are a pilot, a farmer, or just a tech enthusiast listening in, the takeaway is clear. The tool is only as good as the system you build around it.
Detect, direct, decide, and always, always ground truth.
Always ground truth. That's a wrap on today's mission, Commander. See above, go beyond, get ahead. For more training, tools, and intel, head to skycommander.ca. If you learned something new, share it, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star debrief.